Doug Miles, Don Henderson. Don, we're kind of taking a break from sports today. We're here at the Sarasota Film Festival, kind of a sports-related thing, because we just saw a very interesting documentary about the great tennis coach Nick Bollettieri called Love Means Zero, right here at the Sarasota Opera House. And great documentary and a little Q&A after with Nick Bollettieri. So we'll start with you. Let's do a little movie review.
Well, I sort of agree with you. I think it was a great piece of work put together. It's going to be on Showtime. I'm sure later on it was produced by Showtime. I would say my first observation, more than what I had known before, a very, very complicated personality.
No doubt. A lot of the film was an interview with him. They shot it at the old Colony Resort where he started out back in the 1970s. Of course, now it's closed. Been closed for about 9 years, kind of run down. But very controversial guy. We kind of knew that. We had a chance to talk to him on radio a few years ago down here, and I was kind of thinking, Don, the same as you, kind of like very similar to Frank Sinatra. You know, kind of an impulsive guy, very controversial guy. He's a very successful guy, but people have a lot of mixed emotions about him.
He had a lot of great champions, and you mentioned a moment ago about the Colony. Of course, that was the focal point of Sarasota. It has changed so much, and they went back really to the early years of Sarasota and how low-key it was. And the Colony was really the feature location. If you wanted to be involved with tennis or the beach or staying down here in Sarasota, that was the place to go. And he developed the tennis personality, and not only that, but he had some of the greatest players in the world that he coached. And like most coaches, there are times when you have trouble between the player and the coach, and they separate, and that happens more times than you think in all of professional sports, but obviously in tennis it becomes more obvious.
And the bulk of the documentary had to deal with Bollettieri and Andre Agassi, his number one star for pretty much, I guess, his whole career. He had other people too, and their breakup after Agassi became number one in the world.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting from a sidebar standpoint. They used the ladies a little bit less, even though we had some championship lady players as well. They sort of had a different take on the dedication that you put into, and that was really his whole story from the beginning. As he said, it's almost 24 hours a day,
right.
And the people that work for him had to feel the same way. From dusk to dawn, you had to be involved in teaching tennis, and you had to be a participant in teaching tennis. And some of the women that are in the documentary, thought great parts of it were fine, other parts of it were difficult.
I thought it was interesting, too. We kind of talked about it walking over here. It's kind of a film, even if you didn't know a lot about tennis, you're going to get a lot of information about Bollettieri in this.
Yeah, and he spent a time after the film to really talk to everybody that was in the audience, talk to some of his former players who were on the stage. And you could tell, and also mention the fact when you talk about his age, that he's still in pretty good shape.
87, he said he was.
Yeah, and still looking to continue. We were talking about coming out. As we said, the focal point was the Colony. Then he moved out to IMG, which is a big part, which is really an all-sports complex, not just a tennis complex. So it'll be interesting to see whether he comes up with another outstanding player. Tennis is having a tough time right now with the younger people, getting more and more people involved. And it was interesting how he selected players, that he knew Agassi was going to be good at 14, 15 years of age. And it looked like he worked more with the ones he really knew had a chance to go on and had that kind of dedication and personality than some of the others.
Yeah, they had a couple of other interviews with players that were along with Agassi, and Jim Curry are in the same class. And that one player they interviewed, I think his name was Michael Blackman, thought the same thing as you just mentioned. If you weren't quite up to snuff, you didn't get the court time with Nick, and Nick kind of let you slide away.
Yeah, and the other thing is you had to have parents that were really dedicated to you being, as he said, Agassi comes from Las Vegas, and he sat here, working out with Bollettieri, and he's only 14 years old.
Right.
I mean, you don't really have a childhood. You don't grow up as a young adult. You grow up as a tennis player. And you and I have talked many times about IMG. That's been my feeling. And now we see a lot of Asian players who are becoming golfers. And IMG is really the headquarters for Asian players in the United States, because their parents, first of all, have enough money to pay for it. And secondly, they have the dedication to go out and to play and become superior players.
I'm not so sure I would want my kid to be with Nick. He's a tough guy, but he's an interesting man. And as a film, again, with the Sarasota Film Festival, part of what we're doing now is reviewing the film. I enjoyed it as a film.
Yes, I did too, and I would never want to put that kind of responsibility on my youngster as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. I like it to grow up more naturally. I'd like it to be a tennis player or a golfer or whatever it is he wanted to do, but I'd like it to be a little more various. I wouldn't want it to be just tennis. I want him to grow up as a person.
The name of the film is Love Means Zero. Nice double meaning there. It's a term in tennis, but Nick Bollettieri, the subject. You and I agreed, Don, we enjoyed it.
Yes, it was. I will say this: if you have a chance to see it on Showtime or wherever, if they play it around the country, it's certainly well worth it. 80 minutes, I believe, right?
About 85 minutes.
85 minutes, and I think very, very worthwhile. Worth your time to go see it.
Doug Miles, Don Henderson, live from Sarasota on the Sarasota Film Festival. Thanks for watching.